Well, what began as a day of peaceful protesting has now descended into rioting, full-on violence in the city centre, clashes between the police and these protesters. It started off with tens of thousands of people coming out from inside the city, into the city centre. Then they began to take on the police outside the National Police headquarters here in the city, with smoke bombs being thrown and rioters in turn throwing pavement stones to the police. A very, very quick escalation into violence.
A mind that crossed boundaries, and a polymath who mastered the worlds of both art and science. Leonardo da Vinci may have been accused of being a heretic, yet he produced some of the most iconic religious paintings. Here, the Virgin of the Rocks, wild yet immaculate. The latest way of exploring this work of art, experiencing the science and the techniques that created this icon, what inspired it, how it was painted, and not least, how to preserve it.
This is intended to give people so much rich, wonderful material that their experience of looking and engaging with the real Leonardo is deeper and more memorable and more meaningful.
Da Vinci described water as the driving force of nature. It is the architect of the grotto depicted in the Virgin of the Rocks. Painting is also a testament to the awe felt by the artist for the natural world and the desire he had to understand it.
The version seen here is one of two that exist. The other is in the Louvre in Paris. Both almost identical, but created for different commissions. Yet what captivates is the mind behind the work, and the genius that continues to unveil itself to those who gaze upon it. Sonia Gallego, Al Jazeera, London. Malta and Italy are on the front line of Europe's migration crisis, and they share the same complaint. They say they have not received adequate support from the European Union to deal with the number of people who have, for years, been arriving on their shores. The conditions that cause them to flee, war, poverty and hunger, remain largely unaddressed, and there is little sign that conditions will improve.
And in this seemingly never-ending saga of human misery, it is the people smuggling networks that have profited, charging vulnerable people thousands of dollars for a dangerous passage to Europe. Meanwhile, European governments, wary of their own anti-immigration movements, are reluctant to be seen to be encouraging asylum seekers. And so the dilemma continues.
The EU has given millions of dollars to Libya's Tripoli-based government to intercept vessels leaving the coast, but with little effect. With more than 54,000 people arriving in Europe by boat so far this year, the Maltese authorities say that there needs to be a different approach to this humanitarian emergency. The dream of a better life will almost certainly encourage many more to make the perilous journey. And unless the people smuggling networks who prey in them are seriously tackled, they will continue to be left vulnerable.
Of course, the challenge in this is that whatever the agreement they come up with, they're going to have to try to convince other EU member states to be able to take on the extra load. That has been an incredibly contentious issue, especially for member states such as Hungary and Poland. And the anti-migrant rhetoric that has been flourishing there these past few years has certainly not helped with that at all. Whatever agreement is produced out of here will then take time to resolve throughout the whole of the European Union.
Sonia, thank you for that. Sonia Gallego live for us in Malta.
It was last November when Ulyukayev's problems began. During a meeting with Igor Sechin, the CEO of Russia's main state oil company, he was presented with a heavy bag. He was arrested shortly after and accused of accepting a cash bribe of $2 million. Ulyukayev said he believed that the bag contained bottles of wine and accused Sechin of setting him up.
The case has generated a lot of interest in just how much influence Mr. Putin's inner circle has. For example, Mr. Sechin is not only the head of Russia's oil giant Rosneft, whose headquarters are situated just over there, but he's also a long-time close ally of Mr. Putin, with a direct line to the Kremlin, and apparently not a man to cross.
Sechin. This is not an apparition of elections past, but the return of the great survivor of Italian politics. Despite the scandals, the humiliating political defeats, and a conviction for tax fraud, anyone who gambled on never seeing Silvio Berlusconi again might feel shortchanged, but not the party faithful in a theatre in Milan to hear his message.
He may be 81 years old, he may have only just had open heart surgery last year, but Silvio Berlusconi is back. And in Italy's current volatile political stage, he is being seen as a safe pair of hands. This could be Berlusconi's final comeback. His political career has been declared dead several times before, but so far that hasn't stopped him clinging on to power. Sonia Gallego, Al Jazeera, Milan.